to Seeking Focus, episode number 16.
Welcome to Seeking Focus, a podcast that provides photographers and videographers with a place to critically compare technology, share ideas, and enhance their skills.
So, what's been happening with you, Ev?
Yeah, it's been a long week, a very tiring week. Bit of this, bit of that. I think probably the most eventful thing that's happened to me during the week was I was shooting a wedding, and which I don't do very often, so it was interesting. And and at the end of the night, when I was packing up, ready to go, one of the people came up to me and said, "Oh, we just loved your work. You're fantastic. You know, this is for you." And he proceeded to give me a bag. A plastic bag.
Bag of leftover cake we're talking about.
That's what I thought initially as well. He gave me this leftover cake, but it was more like icing sugar.
Icing sugar.
But he was trying to pay me, that type of icing sugar. He was trying to pay me off for the night with drugs.
Well, no, we don't, endorse any of that stuff here. Thank you very much. So,
but
did you take it or you didn't take it? That's the question.
No, I definitely did not take it. But it was just weird because I'm sitting there looking at this person thinking, what's this plastic bag and what the hell is in it? And I don't know, maybe other people, experience this on a regular basis. It's never happened to me before. So I'm sitting there looking at a bag and I'm not realizing what's in it. And, I felt pretty stupid at the time when I did realize. And I was like, oh, yeah, nah, mate, thank you, appreciate it, And then he stuck his face into the bag and snorted and walked away.
You get funny things at weddings, don't you? People get excited, people get...
They were happy. They were very, very happy. And obviously this is why they were happy. But never experienced that before. So that's probably the highlight of my week. Yourself?
Do you know what? It's been just flat out work-wise. I've managed to achieve something though. I've got my drone license now, so I'm fully licensed drone pilot now. So I'm wrapped about that.
So it's a little golf clap in the background.
Golf clap, yeah, that's it. Yeah, but no, it's been good. It's just been a bit busy and just doing a few adventures and here and there and everywhere. So
So you're a pilot now officially.
I am a pilot at the moment.
So I don't have to do gigs now and be looking over my shoulder to see if anyone's going to report me or if the police are coming.
People still can report you, man, but we can fly legally now.
You can fly legally. I can't, but I'll be sending work your way.
Done.
Fabulous. So what's today's show about?
All right. So today we've got special guest with us. We've got Daniel from Visual Production Agency. Welcome to podcast of Seeking Focus. So we're Seeking Focus from you. How are you, D?
Good, man. Good. How are you?
All right, man. What's been happening with you? You've been flat out as well. We've sort of been doing a few shoots together and and you just keep going, man. Like you just don't stop. Do you sleep, mate? That's the question.
I do sleep, but I still think when I sleep. Business ideas.
Business is business, isn't it? Yeah,
that's right.
Here,
doesn't end.
Yeah. So, so we just want to try to obviously get more information from you and try to understand what makes you tick. You are one of the more successful video production agencies in Melbourne. Where you're much bigger than I am, and we sort of
not in height. You're taller than me.
Well, I am a bit taller than you. That's true. That is true. But look, we you sort of do a lot bigger work, jobs, and sort of productions and other things than both Evan and I guess. So it's just sort of good to hear from your end how I guess just to summarize, probably want to know more about. Like your beginnings, how did you actually get into it, and what makes you tick? Why is it worthwhile business getting into, or is it just sort of because you love it? You know what I mean?
And also, what type of payments do you?
I was going to say, you've got a couple of hours for this.
We're not going to get any sleep tonight.
That's right.
But I guess straight back into it because I've got a feeling we might be here for a while.
Yeah, we will be.
Start
from the early beginnings.
We're trying to keep this at about an hour or something, but I've got a feeling it'll probably be a little bit longer than an hour. But look, we can stretch it out to 2 hours and then stretch it to
3 episodes.
To
make it
3 episodes.
Make it 4.
Make it 4. Yeah.
It's an ongoing production.
Yeah. So look, do you want to tell us more about yourself first, and then see what we come up with, man?
Oh, so thanks, Marty, and thanks for the opportunity, guys. Appreciate
thank you. It's always
down here.
been a pleasure to have other creatives on the podcast, and a lot of podcasters. I mean, a lot of podcasts are from US and Europe and whatever else, but Australia doesn't actually create a lot of podcasts on video and productions and other
I think
things.
because of the lack of productions we can do in Melbourne and Australia.
Possibly.
I mean, I think, and I find that a lot of students that study here, I know we get I don't know how many we get a year, hundreds of students that want to do internships with us. They're like, oh, can we get a job in video production? I'm like, just go overseas.
Yeah.
Like, not to be negative, but it's tough in Australia, I think. It's a tough, small industry. So it's a bit like, okay, look, if you love it enough, you can make something happen of it, but it's hard work. And you got to be persistent. And it's hard, as you know, like to work in another job and do video production.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty much what I do because, as you know, I do freelancing and I do have a part-time job and to pay the bills, but then you kind of go, creating videos is my passion as well, so that's why I do it. And I mean, that's why we create this podcast because one of the things is obviously we want to get close to other production sort of agencies / individuals to be able to talk all together and obviously get better understanding of what how this whole thing works because we just love it and so much. So Evan and I have been doing this for last 10 years as well, but we're not, like, personally, I'm not striving for potentially going as big as yourself, or having a whole crew out on the site and trying to obviously deal with bigger clients, So, but look, let's kick it off, man.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Well, going back to what I was saying before about the production in Australia, like there is opportunities out there, and I think that's why I think the wedding industry is big because everyone's getting married now. It's after COVID, it's crazy. So many people doing weddings, and there's money in that, which is great. The corporate side,
but in saying that, I was just going to say I've noticed a huge change in the in what people are doing with their weddings. They've downsized quite substantially. It's the big ones are still there, but they're not as common as they used to be. So people have either kept them as huge weddings, or they've gone completely the opposite, and they've got these these small budget sort of things where the mid-range ones seem to have vanished a bit. But that's just
you're right, and I think that's just probably due to them getting sick of postponing and rescheduling their wedding. I was very lucky. I actually got married just before COVID.
Oh wow!
So I got married end of 2019, and we had no idea. We booked in this Europe trip. It's like, oh, can't wait to go. Never had opportunity to go to Europe, have a break. What happens? COVID kicks in.
Yeah, that's right.
And no honeymoon.
Yeah, that's right.
But that did change everything. I think weddings, but also corporates. Like there was a big shift in the way that the corporates did their videos because of COVID. But maybe we'll get into that later. I'll probably dig back into how we started. But we can go into that. And I think a lot of people find that really interesting. What's happening at the moment in the industry, and even seeing what competitors are going through. We talk to a lot of different people in the industry. It's quite interesting to see what's going on.
I guess between both of us or three of us potentially, we do know a fair bit of people around Melbourne that do video productions as well, and a lot of people are saying the same thing. At the moment, a lot of people are busy, very busy. But saying that though, we don't know how long it's going to go for. You know what I mean? Because there's obviously peaks and troughs like any other business, and potentially myself at the moment, I'm pretty flat out. You know what I mean? And for me to be flat out, I've got to be doing more than 2 shoots a week. You know what I mean? And which I'm doing like 2 to 3 shoots.
That's amazing.
You know what I mean?
That's great work. Congrats.
Great.
That's
Thanks. But they're small jobs, not like yourself. You know what I mean?
It's still great. I mean, it's good to know that there's work and people, like yourself, you don't want to do it full time, but you've actually succeeded in a business that is going successful. Like 2 to 3 shoots a week. Some people will die for that. Some people will be like to get 1 a month.
Yeah.
So it's great that you got work, and I know, and you're right.
But that's that's another thing too. I mean, we created this podcast, for instance, and we try to we'll try to do it basically just to sort of obviously meet other people and just satisfy our knowledge sort of but before, like, we started this through COVID 2 years ago now, and we've been smashing them out, the episodes, and we talk about a lot of the other things, but now COVID is potentially well,
it's gone, but it's not.
It's gone,
that's the funny thing about it.
Actually, I'm going to predict here. I'm going to predict we're going into another trough. Just heads up.
No, thank you.
We are.
Can you get out now? I don't like you anymore.
But if you look at everything that is actually happening at the moment, we are definitely going into another trough. They're expecting it to be worse than it's ever been. The only reason here in Melbourne that we haven't had the lockdowns and everything else that we've done in past is because, and I hate saying this, but it is an election year. And it is suicide for a government to turn around and say, you're all going to wear masks and you're all going to stay home. They will not be re-elected. And that is one of the things that's going to be happening. people will be falling sick left, right, and center. And that was, I remember on forums and stuff, people saying, I need a photographer today because my photographer's called in sick or they've had a COVID.
How many times it's happened?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and I am predicting that's going to be happening within the next few months and quite heavily as well. But that is just one of my predictions, one of many. And
I don't know if there's I don't say there's going to be a lockdown. I think what's going to happen, my prediction
it won't, because it's an election year. It can't happen.
But even after that, I just don't think the government can afford to lock us down because there is no payments left. There's no... The country's already in enough debt. They have to keep business as usual. Definitely. I think, yes, there's going to be maybe some sort of maybe wearing a mask mandates or something else is going to come up, but I don't think lockdowns. I really doubt.
I don't think Melbourne can handle another lockdown,
we can't.
to be honest with you, man. We've been obviously most locked down city in the world.
Yeah.
And
we've struggled enough as it is.
So, but I must say, though, I'm a COVID virgin, baby. So I never had COVID, so I'm wrapped.
Are you serious?
Yeah, never had it.
I unfortunately had to go through it.
Did you? I don't know if I've ever had it. I've only copped this gastro-like thing. And you remember that, Marty? When I was sick, I had to actually go to a shoot. The client, look, I had a negative test because I only had one test. Remember the rat tests were really like hard to get?
Yeah.
And we're all struggling to get, everyone's trying to like scrambling out.
Now I've got a warehouse at my house. If anyone needs them, I've got thousands
There's
of
like
boxes.
people buying thousands of them and trying to sell them on the black market. Remember that? Yeah. That was that time. So I couldn't actually test multiple times. So I don't know if I ever got COVID, but it was like really bad gastro. And that was the only time I got something like that. But since then, touch wood.
Yeah.
You know, I'm all good.
There was actually, I didn't have COVID at the time, but I actually had to cancel a gig because of the COVID. My wife came home, she was sick, and she woke up in the morning and she's like, I'm not feeling well. We did the rat test, she had COVID. And, you know, obviously I'm going to catch it because we live in the same house and we're side by side with each other. And I thought, oh, geez, you know, there's a good chance that I want to be getting it. I did a test. I didn't actually have it, but... the client that I was doing a wedding shoot. I'm doing all these weddings lately. I'm going to say. But anyway, so it was a wedding shoot, and they had postponed the wedding 3 times because of COVID and their fears of, you know, because a lot of the guests were elderly and they didn't want to get their family sick, and you know there was a fear of people dying and stuff at that stage, which is still happening. But so they kept cancelling for that reason, and then I thought to myself, well, if I go there, and at the moment I don't have any of the side effects, but what happens if it pops up halfway through the day and I become contagious? So I rang them up, and I actually had to cancel the gig, even though I didn't have it. Ended up getting it 3 days later. So
oh wow, did you?
Yeah,
so my wife had COVID. I never got it from her. And then my employee, I got a brand new employee last week. She started last Monday, and she's been training up for a couple of months, doing a great job. Like she was, you know, got to the point where she can help me with admin, you know, client liaising, the whole lot, planning. Anyway, so she started 3 days. And 4th day she calls in, I got COVID.
There you go.
So
Well,
she's been sick since.
So how long has it been since you called in?
2 days. No, I'm joking.
So,
It's been 9 days. So. Nah, but I've been very lucky. Touch wood again. I haven't received it. I don't know if it's just a lucky thing or not sure. I won't brag because I'll probably cop it tomorrow now. And
I've actually got a fair bit of work up because of that, because I've never actually had COVID. All these videographers have been from Melbourne. They just like ring me up, hey Marty, can you do the shoot? Hey, yeah, sure, no worries, man.
So videographers, you know what to not do now? Don't call Marty.
yeah, that's it.
He's getting too much work.
yeah, that's right. I'm too cheap, man. I'm gonna raise my rates,
Raise your rates
mate.
a bit. That's it, mate.
Hey, Daniel, let's kick off, man.
Awesome.
So, tell us about the visual production agency, where you are at, how you started, and just sort of...
It didn't start with that name, let's say that much.
Right,
so
okay.
I can tell you a bit of a brief history of the journey, and I don't want to be here for hours. I actually used to guest lecture at universities and tell my story, and it took an hour and a half, so I won't go down that path, telling the whole story.
You put it in 5 minutes, man.
I'll try my best.
Yeah.
So I started doing video when I was about 15. Long story short, my uncle... He was a professional wrestler, George the Hitman Julio. He was from Sunshine. He used to actually train wrestlers around Australia. They used to come to his place. And I don't know if have you ever heard of him? The wrestling scene in Melbourne. Do you remember it? No.
It's actually funny you should say that because I bought my house from a wrestler.
Nah, he only had the one place in Sunshine North. He hasn't moved.
Okay, so basically I bought one, and my back granny flat was actually a gym for boxing and
probably one of his guys. You know?
Possibly. So it's still got the posters
Small
up,
world,
actually.
mate. Small world.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, keep going.
So it started where I remember as a youngster, I always loved filming, but my dad was a professional photographer. He worked at Channel 7. He did work for government, and then he had his own studio at home and took photos. I was never interested in photography. When I saw what he was doing, I'm like, I don't find this amusing. I was a young guy. I just didn't find it amusing. But video, always with a video camera. I was a kid. I used to use it. But then forgot about it, got into my computers. I'm an IT whiz. I love my tech. I used to have a CB radio before the internet was out, talk on the CB and talk crap to everyone. And it was just fun days, when we were young, like 9, 10 years old, getting into all that sort of stuff. And, I had my 286, 386 and 486 and, we got all those computers, old school. If Firewire came out, we're talking about. So, and then eventually, anyway, so back when I was about 14, 15, we're talking like year 1999, around that sort of time. I basically got offered to film one of these wrestling shows. My cousin used to film it. She couldn't do it anymore. She goes, I'm busy that night. Can you film it? And they had like back then the mini DV handycam style little cameras.
Those,
and I'm like, I'll give it a shot. And I don't know, as soon as I touched the camera, as soon as I got into the whole panning and said, I'm like, oh, I really like this. And it just became a weekly gig for me. And got to the point when by the time I was only 15, I used to edit. I used to sell the VHS tapes at the gigs. I used to actually make money, save the money, and buy like a new VHS, special recorder, the super VHS, special high-end recorders back then.
The ones that can record a 3-hour cassette in only 2 hours.
2 hours. So that's how it started. And I had the Firewire card, and I used to edit on Premiere. I was the first guy. So I studied media in high school. I was the first kid ever in our high school to ever use digital editing. So the teacher actually said, look, I have no idea what to do. Here's a massive book, punked it on the desk. I went after school hours, sat on this computer at school, and the first kid to ever use Premiere. And I just said, I played with it. No, I didn't look at the book. I'm not a book reader. I just I'll play with the program and make myself learn. And I loved it. So I made, a car chase movie in year 12, and the school was like, wow, the best thing we've ever seen. And then same thing happened at university. I studied multimedia at Vic Uni. I did a documentary about the wrestling. So, the guys actually made it behind the scenes. It's on YouTube. If you look at behind the scenes of Australian wrestling, look it up on YouTube. You'll see it.
Definitely.
Back
you got to send me a link to that.
So I will.
Put it in the notes.
It's great. Cool. It's about half an hour doco I made on the whole scene. Fantastic. So the university saw that. And my teachers and that, they loved it. They said, wow, this is one of the best productions we've seen made. And a few months later, when I graduated and whatnot, I got an email from one of the teachers saying, look, do you want to do a video for the university to help promote one of the courses? I'm like, yeah, sure. Like, I've got a 5K budget. Now, I'm 20 years old.
Yeah, that's right.
5K budget. Ding. Okay. But in the meantime, I was already doing stuff for Channel 31. I was doing 2 TV shows, filming, editing. So I already was in the industry doing a lot of bits and pieces. But when I saw the corporate, they got budget for this. Because I was doing, small budget stuff, but I was loving and I was learning what I was doing on a daily basis because I was working with other professionals in the field. I took it day by day, and then when I saw that Vic Uni wanted a video, it was my first sort of bigger gig. And then I brought my first camera because I was hiring cameras at that stage. My dad goes, let's go to the bank. I'll get you to borrow $10,000. I was only 20 years old. 10 grand. Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot.
I brought the HVR Z1P Sony HD camera. I was one of the first Sony HD cameras out, professional camcorders, about 10 grand. Wow. Then I brought like a Toda lighting kit, a Rode mic, the whole lot, boom kit and whatnot. And that was my first gig. And then from there, I was very lucky. I picked up clients from random people. My physiotherapist at the time, so I got a bad back, so I could see the physio. At that age, this guy's asking me, what do I do? I'm like, I do video on the side. Like, come around. Went to his place, show him some videos, and he's like, hey, I'll call you next week. I'm like, what's this? He's like, I might have a client for you. Calls me a week later, and he's like, have you heard of Rio Tinto? Who the hell's Rio Tinto? It's like the biggest mining company in the world. I'm like, really? No shit. Yeah. 2 months later, I paid off my camera and I was doing all the induction videos, training videos, and everything for Rio Tinto.
Fantastic.
This guy, and working directly with them. So for about 3 years straight, that's how I got into corporate. I basically worked with them doing induction videos, training videos. Then I started doing marketing videos for other corporates and government and whatnot. So
and it's all word of mouth, you reckon?
Back then, it was word of mouth. Now, the thing is, it was very different back then. Not every second person on the street would do video production. Now everyone does it. But who would have had to, buy a camera back then and got into the field? It was still very analog back then. Like in the early, so I'm talking 2005, 2006. It was digital, but it wasn't like every single person would buy a camera and say they do video production. So it was a lot easier to start a business. And I had my own business. It was just like a standard. It was a funny name, actually.
Go and tell us.
My dad had a photography business many years ago, as I mentioned. He called himself RS Photography, RS Photographers. And he goes, why don't you start your business as RS, video? I go, RS Media Production. So I used the RS. I never forget this. I had a meeting. I was about 23.
I have to ask, what does RS stand for?
This is the thing.
This is
right?
okay.
I've got a feeling it's coming.
So I don't know. I didn't know what it actually stood for, but I knew there was a couple of jokes about the RS thing. So I just used it because I had no idea what marketing was about. Like no marketing experience, man. I just wanted a business card. I just had the name on it to have a business card. That's all it was about,
right.
you know. And I went to this meeting once. It was actually with the education department, so it was a government client in my, you know, polka dot suit and I was 23, full suited up and everything else, the tie and everything else. Yeah, rocked up. I think I'm really cool and jazz, and you know, and these all the board are sitting there around. There's like 8 of them. I'm like,
Wow,
oh, geez, this is a
that's
big meeting.
intimidating.
Yeah, it's you know intimidating. So sit down. They're like, oh, you know, show us what you do, and I show them all the Rio Tinto induction videos and all this stuff that I created for other clients, and they're like, oh, one question. Like the top manager, I was like, "What's the RS stand for?" And I'm like, "Rat shit," and I'm laughing, and they're just like, all just staring at me, quiet. I'm thinking, "Oh God, that wasn't professional at all."
No.
And like, it was just stiff in there. And I think,
So how old were you back then? 20?
22,
Okay.
23.
Yeah,
about
okay.
22. Yeah. So it was, for me, I was like a bit of a laugh, but I
Yeah.
realized this is not right. I need to change my marketing, and I was
So is that what RS actually stood for? Or
I don't know
you
to
just
this
made it up?
day. My dad said raw standard, rat shit. I don't know. So it was just a funny name. And then I met a bloke, funny enough, at my chiropractor.
Did you actually end up getting that job? That's the question.
No, I
you
didn't.
did.
But eventually I
wonder
did get
why.
into. Eventually I did get some more work, but it was more, you know, in other sectors. But from that meeting, no. And exactly, you got to. I think back then also it was very like, I don't know. It was a more. People in the corporate world are a lot more sort of like rigid, and now it's a lot more relaxed.
Yeah,
It's not like, you know, back then I had to film in a tie and a suit.
Really?
I used to go to Rio Tinto and film in a tie and a suit. Who does that now?
Sure.
You know, who even wears a tie now?
Yeah, that's right.
You know, they're so different. You wear a tie. Yeah?
I wear a tie. Yes, yes. I wear it around my head like Rambo.
He wears a bow tie as well.
Polka dots.
So
Yeah.
I had to change how I marketed my business and myself. So eventually I met this guy. I went to my chiropractor and he was sitting, this older bloke, you know, just, you know, starts chatting with me. He goes, "Oh, what do you do?" And I said, "Oh, you know, I do video production." "Oh, okay. Show me your business card." And he looks at the card. "What's the RS stand for?" So, and I'm like, "Oh, I don't know." He goes, "I've got to be honest with you." He goes, "This card doesn't really represent what you do very well." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I don't know." You know, but he goes, "Look,
Come on, I do rat shit.
yeah. He's like, "Oh, if you want a hand with marketing, I can give you a hand. I'll, you know, we'll give you a number and blah, blah." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, it'll be great to get some information." So I didn't know how well this guy knew marketing.
Yeah.
So anyway, went to my car. I go, "Oh, I spoke to that guy, John, out the back there." And he goes, "John," he goes, "he wants to help you out." I go, "Yeah, why?" He goes, "Mate, this guy was like the head marketing manager of like Gillette, Johnson & Johnson, Cadbury worldwide. And he's retired now. And he's a bit of a contractor and helps people market their business and brands and stuff like that."
Okay.
So he was at the age of only like 22, 23. I was paying this guy $150 a session every time to meet with him to learn how to do and market my business.
That's brilliant.
So that's what I changed to my new business. You know, my second business called Innovating Visuals. That was my other business after that. It had a new slogan. We went vision, pride, passion, had this whole thing going. And yeah, we went dove into the real marketing world and understand what we need to do to attract more corporate clients. And then obviously visual production agency has been, that was established how many years? 2015.
Okay.
So we've been about 7 years now.
7 years, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the journey has moved on, and obviously I got in my own office and employed people, and you know.
So what's the next job going to be? The business name going to be? Go back to RS or?
Maybe we could do that. Yeah, I actually might win business from that now.
Actually, when you have kids that you can bring into the fold, you could buy them business cards that says RS on it.
I still got those cards.
And let them sort it out and figure out what the hell RS means. Don't tell them.
Oh wait.
Well, I think Jackson's already picking up a camera, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he loves his music though. He might be a DJ like you. I don't know.
No, that's great, man.
Thanks, man.
I think those early starts and early beginnings are like the most important thing, because everyone's there, you know what I mean? And like, myself and Evan as well, we're still getting a lot of work from word of mouth, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I know potentially you would spend a hell of a lot of money at the moment on Google ads and Facebook ads and other things.
Tear my hair out sometimes when we look
yeah,
at the bill.
no, I can imagine. Yeah. But like, that's, like word of mouth is still, as far as I know, it's like probably one of the strongest things ever, you know what I mean? And like, meeting that guy in the, in the sitting room or whatever else, and he was the head, marketing director of, big companies like that. You don't really come across that sort of stuff. You know what I
Nah,
mean? So
that's right.
I think, it's great to sort of hear that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I mean, look, you've got the payment system, you've got the word of mouth, you've got the ass kissing method that I use. Please. But with the Google stuff and all that, is it? Do you find that I've never used it personally?
Sure. Yeah.
Do you find that it's a beneficial system to involve yourself with and for advertising purposes? And did you find that it actually made a huge difference? Because for me, I haven't done it, I haven't needed it. But if you're trying to become big like yours, I mean, we're on a very, very different scale here. Is it beneficial?
The way I describe Google ads or any sort of advertising spend when you're spending bigger bucks, you go to Crown Casino. Anyway, I'm sure everyone's been to Crown here at least once in their life and maybe gambled a bit of money away.
Yeah.
I feel like you're gambling. It does. It feels like you're gambling because you just don't know. But you got to be in it to win it, like the lottery. Yeah. You have to be in it to win it. So the minute you turn off your marketing spend is the minute you don't have those potential clients coming in, new clients. Yeah. So I've done that before. And like, you know what? We've just spent too much. We're going to take a break. And I'm thinking, oh no, maybe I shouldn't do that because we're going to, we might not pick up any of these new clients that are potentially out there looking for businesses like ours. So it's a tough one. I've won some really good clients from Google, but I've spent a lot of money and months of it, and we have got sometimes nothing. So
but would you say at the end of the day, does it balance out? Are you still getting more than you're spending?
You know what it is though, Ev, as well? It's yes, there's opportunities and the opportunities come. So you can win business. So yeah, it probably does level itself out. At the end of the day, even if you get the people coming in because you've got a great website, it looks amazing, blah, 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 how good are you on the phone with the sales process? Yeah. Because a lot of the time, I believe this is what most people do. They send a brief online. There's an email. Send us a quote. And you figure out that they're just getting 10 quotes and going for the lowest.
Yeah.
So I always go to, let's give them a call. And I'm teaching my new staff this. I'm like, we have to call them up. I know a lot of staff members a lot of the younger, generation don't want to pick up the phone and they just want to email back and use, text
selfies.
Methods. Yeah, selfies.
Selfies of each other. Yeah.
But I believe the communication is so important because you got to understand the client from a personal perspective, and the business, and really digging deep and say, what are you trying to achieve here? Is budget really an issue? If it is, how can we make that budget work for you? So it's more about, we want to work with you. Can you afford us first thing? But if you can't, can we still work with you in another way rather than losing the opportunity? So it's not just about the money at the same time, because sometimes you'll find that the money can be there, but they got to change their mindset. Yeah. The client's mindset's always got to be changed. And then they're going to go, oh, wait a minute, my boss has to be approving that. Okay, great. How do we change your boss's mindset? How do you change the chair of 10 people and making the...
and you know what? I think it comes down to knowledge as well, because you've been in the business for such a long time. And like personally, I think for what we do is... And I could be wrong, and this is just my own thing, but I feel like almost like 60% of it is your attitude towards the client, if they fall in love with you potentially. And that 40% is actual video itself. Yeah. You know what I mean? And
don't forget the how big your camera is as well. That's
why I got a Sony. Daniel shoots with a Sony. I don't know about you, but anyway. But look, I think the attitude is pretty much the whole.
Yes, it is.
Like the other day, I've picked up this marketing company agency, and they rang me as well, and they want to do this video for some piston company or something like that. I don't know, some engine hub, whatever, and they've got no idea what they want. They don't know idea. But this lady, she was like on the phone with me for a good 20 minutes, and we just had a good old chat about COVID. We had a chat about family. We talk about, a lot of other things.
That's really important.
That's exactly right. You know what I mean? So you're getting that personal feel. You feel like, you get to know what they want to do. Yeah. And then at the end of the conversation, potentially, I was said, well, okay, so what the budget is, you know what I mean? They go, oh, we don't have a budget.
That's right.
Okay. So first of all, can they afford what we are offering, you know what I mean, at that price? Because, if their budget is, $200, then,
That's the whole reason why I like having the discussion early on. And I can tell you what, I've made a lot of mistakes in business in my years. Like I've been in business now for 17 years and I've made huge mistakes. I remember when I first employed my first employee, I was only 26 years old. We spent days and days and days writing proposals without even considering some of these options. Like, it's all about the proposal, all about the quote. Send that off to them.
Yeah, the cold calling.
Yeah.
You need a video. No, right? Yes, you do.
It was all about that. It was all about that presentation, the proposal. But what I didn't really do enough of is actually talk to the client and understand their needs. And not only that, also understand, like you said, from the first convo, are we even the right fit for them? Because we could have been too expensive. I don't know. We could have been too cheap. I don't know. So having that initial conversation, actually have a chat with them, is more important than just sending the proposal.
Look, I completely agree. I receive so many proposals. We want to work with you. We want to do this. We want to do that. And I seriously, most of them just get into the trash bin straight away. I don't even bother. I don't have time for this. I didn't ask for you to contact me. I'm not interested. If the person's serious, they'll give me a call and we'll discuss it. And in some instances, they'll call me and look, I'm not really interested, but I'll give them leads or, it's develop maybe ties for down the track. But if I receive an email cold calling, we can offer you this or we can do this or we want you to do this, it's just like, erase. And it's definitely the way to go to actually make that contact and develop a rapport with the client. I have to say I'm guilty at times, though, and this is the complete opposite, because there's times where I'm not chasing work and I'm just not interested. I'm tired and worn out and I'm just like so grumpy. I've got the kids at home screaming and carrying on. And I get a phone call and I'm just like, I'm just about to kill someone. And the client says to me, oh, look, we want you to do this. And I just straight away go, yeah, look, I'm not really interested, because I get a feeling that they're not the type of clients that I could work with, be it budget, be it what they're actually proposing, be it their expectations, and as soon as they hear that tone in your voice, they're just like, oh.
Yeah.
And, but the clients, on the other hand, who, regardless if they've got the budget or not, but you speak to them in a nicer tone and you develop that rapport with them, they're like, oh, yeah. And you can just see the difference.
And that's it. And what you said is spot on. I mean, there are businesses that have budget. I've had that as well. Like you hear the budget's actually pretty good. But then I realized what they want with that budget.
Oh, yeah.
I've had some clients, like I had one, it was some business from Singapore wanted to work with us, and I was looking at the brief. I'm like, what is this? I need to have. So we had a Zoom meeting with lady in Malaysia. And Singapore was a pretty big company, and the budget was tiny. I mean, it sounds like a lot of money if I tell you the number, but if considering what they wanted, I'm like, they wanted to film this amazing scenery at this random location which we have to pay for. And I'm thinking all the numbers in my head. I'm like, we're actually going to make money on this shoot. Yeah. All the work and the facilitating and the management and all the shooting and blah blah blah. So it's sometimes not worth it. Yeah. And some clients don't get that. What's involved?
But at the same time, sometimes, and look, I don't recommend this, sometimes you can do a budget job and they love you so much that they'll bring you back and then you can sort of renegotiate. Yeah. It doesn't always work that way. Sometimes that you go there, you do the budget job.
Once you're cheap, you're always cheap.
Yeah, they don't give a shit. As soon as you say to them, this is how much we're going to charge you. Yeah. They're like, oh, well, we got a quote for less, so we're going to go with them. And that happens quite a bit as well. Yeah. Interestingly enough, a while ago, I did actually receive a phone call from a person who had Australia-wide, and they told me what their project was. They gave me their budget, and I just went, are you kidding? I was so rude. I can't believe they actually spoke to me after that. But my reaction was, are you kidding? And it wasn't in a polite way either. I was actually really obnoxious. And I look back at it and I just think, I really need to, my people
How did they
skills.
respond?
They went quiet and they went, yeah. They didn't know what to, they probably haven't been spoken to that way before because they're actually a really big company. And so automatically, first of all, they're contacting this small guy who's in Melbourne to do this big job that's Australia-wide. And I'm thinking in the back of my head, either this is a scam, the person has a thick international accent. And I said to them, are you kidding? And they said, no, why? And I said, because that doesn't even cover my costs of getting to you. It was just ludicrous. Yep. And they said, oh, we really hadn't given it much thought. It was just a number that we sort of pulled out and we said that was our budget. And I said, your budget isn't realistic. And what you're going to get for that is someone showing up with a handy cam, a 16-year-old, with fisheye lens on their skateboard. Sorry, from the 80s and 90s.
Maybe a black magic?
Yeah.
No.
There we go. Nice one. Well done, D. Here's a high five, man.
People with black magics don't use fisheye lenses. We use anamorphics. But anyway, so the thing was, I actually, after a while, I sort of thought to myself, shit, I've said, the way I've spoken to him is wrong, and I really haven't explained why. And I sat down with him and I worked it out. And I said, look, this is the cost, and this is what it costs of this is what it costs of that. Then did you want this? And they're like, oh, you haven't thought about that. So that's going to be additional cost. And work it out with them and be polite, because I mean, sometimes I'm really narky on the phone and it really doesn't go in my favor. But and it went from this minuscule budget to something that I look back now and go, that was actually one of my highest paying clients.
And you got them as a client.
Got them as a client, and it's ongoing. And
Fantastic.
they ring me up every couple of months. Hey, Evan, we need you to do this. We need you to do that. In fact,
And you educated the client, so you took the time to do that.
yeah, and
That's what makes the difference.
yeah, so
that's true.
educated them, gave them a quality production at the end.
Yeah.
You know, if they wanted something, my answer was yes, we can do that.
Yeah.
You know, as opposed to, oh, no, we can't. I mean, it's too hard. Or, you know, if I couldn't do it, I'd bring in someone else. And even during lockdown, when we were locked down in Melbourne and they wanted me to be shooting in Adelaide, I couldn't.
Yeah.
But there was no lockdown in Adelaide. So I was hiring people over there to do the job.
Build those connections.
Yeah, problem was, of course, I was a pain in the ass to them. Like, what is this shit you're sending me? Are you blind? Can't you see what you're doing?
Do a half price.
Yeah. Do you know what my budget is? It's shit by comparison to what I'm getting paid. No, but I managed the whole project from Melbourne without actually leaving my house because we were in that lockdown where we couldn't even leave our houses. And I shot stuff that was actually filmed in Adelaide and Sydney, produced it, and it was shown internationally.
That's amazing.
And I'll you know, and he keeps coming back. And his business he's got 4 or 5 different arms. And every time he calls me up, he goes like, I need this, I need that. It was just amazing. But it started off from one of those, we've got, you know, like a shit kicker budget. And that's that little bit of effort to talk to the person.
That's right.
It really worked in my favor. And I've learned from that, you know, just that little bit makes a huge difference.
Yeah. Yeah. The lack of sleep, don't let it get to you. You never know.
Well, as I say to everyone else, who needs 8 hours sleep? When you're a photographer, you only need 4.
Yeah. Or even 2 sometimes.
Yeah, that's right. That's an amazing story. I totally agree with you there. And that's what I've learned through the years as well. I think it's crucial to spend the time to actually understand what's going on.
But
you know?
I think one of the things that we forget is that, you know, on the other side of the phone is another person who's just like you. And what would you want from your photographer or your videographer? You know, would you want them to talk down to you like I do? No, the answer is no. You know, so it's one of those things. Put yourself in their position.
Yeah.
You know, break things down, explain things to them, to them, and also show them the benefit. Like, I mean, sure, we could get you the Sony user with a fisheye lens on a skateboard, you know,
For $50.
for $50, right? And he could do the production, and by all means, it'll look great. It'll be grainy. It'll be a 1x1 production, you know, and you know, but if you did it my way, it will cost you a little bit more, but it'll be, you know, it'll have great color. It'll be something that you can use internationally. It'll be something you'll be proud of. It'll be something that adds value to you and your business. You know, it's not going to be something that people cringe at. People are going to be looking at it going, shit, we want to invest in this. You know, and I think it's really important to educate.
You're spot on. And what you said there is exactly what I do as well. I sometimes actually look into depth about how the production is going to be produced, because sometimes I actually say to them, this is probably more preferred for a freelancer to produce for you, not a production company. Because, you know, considering their budget and what their needs are, like, it's like, you know what, I've got some freelancer mates that can do this, no problem. You know, I could just tell straight away. And I never say to them, like, no, we're not going to deal with you. It's just like, okay, what is it that you need? I can maybe refer you to the right people. Still help them out. You never know.
Look, you know, I'm saying, you know, if it's something that I can't do, and I think it's below me, I'll send it out to someone who's got a Sony. But
Hey, chuck that one in there. For any of you FX9 users, you tell me.
I'm going to be pushed down the stairs any second.
Hey, we could do a camera comparison when we head out in the dark one night and see if your camera can, you know.
I can. Yeah. It sure can. It can do anything.
The high base size.
Mine is the autofocus though.
Hey, I've got eyes, haven't I? Why do I need autofocus?
Yeah, that's it.
I love that. So I was going to say the same thing happened to me during COVID. So just as COVID began, or just before actually, I won one of the biggest projects I've had in a long time. Entailed a lot of training videos, marketing videos, and a whole lot for it was part of La Trobe University's Autism Centre, as a childcare centre.
Yep.
And that was an amazing job, because we did a lot of training videos with the girls that work there about, you know, how to deal with kids with autism and how to help them and, you know, work with them as a child and stuff. And because it was all in studio, because we have a green screen studio, thank goodness I had that studio during COVID, because that was when, you know, everything locked down and no one could come around and everything closed up. And then when things opened up, the studio was the place to be.
Yep.
And, you know, that saved us. It really did. So that job was amazing. And, you know, that sort of went through for the year and whatnot. And then we picked up other clients during COVID, a lot of training, live streaming, and that kept us going as well. So I think it's just more sort of,
you know what, though,
yeah,
through COVID, and even myself, I innovated a lot of things as well. So I started doing virtual tours, as you know. I started doing other things. I mean, you know, and you have to evolve that business. You know?
Yeah.
And it's a ever evolving business, like yourself. You know, you just recently bought an FX3 as well, right?
Yeah, that's
so
right.
you sort of upgrading to that sort of, you know, gimbal small package where you can still, you know, achieve a lot with it as well. And it's a lot of people, you know, like they don't want to spend money on the business, you know. The way I look at it, you got to spend money to make money.
You have to spend money to make money. That's right.
And that's
in marketing and everything. Like, you know, I've spent so much money on our website, retweaking it, changing it, fixing it. The software we pay for, thousands a year. We've got, you know, software that we send email campaigns out to clients. You know, we've got thousands of, you know, people in our campaigns. We've got, you know, we do Facebook ads, we do the whole lot. And then, you know, it all adds up. So, you know, I think, but you have to try, you have to be in it to win it, like I was saying.
So with the campaign you do, so you send the emails out from RS videography at hotmail.com.
Yeah, hotmail.com. That was the first email.
No, but the funny thing is actually, you do 100%. You do have to spend money. You have to be at the cutting edge, and you need to keep evolving. That's 100% correct. For a very long time during the lockdown, I unfortunately didn't do that, and I feel that in certain areas I've fallen behind. And I look at Marty, and he's at the cutting edge. Cutting edge.
He's buying more Sonys.
He's got more Sonys than you can put a finger at. But in reality, though, I pretty much became stagnant during that period, and I wasn't developing. My situation was kind of different. I had young kids. I was stuck at home. I had to do homeschooling. It was a shitful period, but you know, Marty was able to advance during that period, and I can see huge differences in his business and the way he does things. And I'm still playing catch up, very far behind.
Well, I'll tell you what I noticed is funny how you mentioned that. It is a mistake to stop, because a lot of people from the woodworks, I don't know where they've come from, have started production companies now. There's groups of people that have started businesses. And I've noticed there's been triple the amount of competitors out there than I've ever seen before. And they're big.
Do you find that they say, all right, so if a big client, you mentioned Latrobe before, would they, if they come to them, would they be able to handle the workload? That's the thing too. Because I mean, I know from, and that was my other question sort of thing. When a client contacts you and says, all right, I've got a budget of thousands of dollars, whatever it's going to be, what would you normally would do in a way, you know what I mean? So like personally, like being a freelancer, I rock up my camera, they talk to the camera, and I film them and edit it, do a bit of B-roll, whatever, you know what I mean? But from your end, you obviously have a lot more people involved. Right?
So
in a normal typical shoot, myself, I will go there by myself and just do whatever I need to be done. Where yourself would potentially have production.
Look, I was like yourself. I started on my own, but I worked with a lot of other producers as I was growing up. I did a lot of stuff nationally and internationally as well. I filmed at the World Cup in South Africa in 2010. I did like a mini doco there. Went to Greece actually in Corfu, did a mini doco there in 2011. I had that opportunity to do a lot of stuff myself and enjoy that. But when I got back to, what do I have to do to grow a business in Melbourne? I thought I need to get a bigger crew, because I'm not the best writer. I am not the best motion graphics designer. I'm not the best all the above, but I do think I'm a great cinematographer. I think I've got an eye for it. I think I'm a great manager. I can manage teams, and that's where I was lucky, because I can manage teams and I like to bring teams together. That has helped me grow the business, so it's not reliant on me anymore. So hiring full-timers, hiring contractors, ongoing contractors that help us with marketing, help us with accounts, have a studio behind us so people can come to our studio, see that we're a legit business. And nothing wrong with working from home, but I think the studio does make a difference when they come to the studio and they see you've got a proper business set up. The bigger businesses feel a little bit more comfortable. But in saying that, COVID's changed a lot. So
it has,
it's not like businesses at home now are just as they've seen the same as any other business. It's not like it's looked down upon now. So but prior to that, I think the business my business did grow because I had the studio, not only because of the green screen studio, but somewhere to go to meet businesses and whatnot. So I think it's a mixture of everything. But having the team accessible and having the right skill sets from different individuals is what makes a production better. I can produce. I can do a production on my own. I can produce, edit, film, blah blah blah. It won't be as good as it won't be as good as if I had my producer setting up the right questions and talking to the clients correctly about their marketing message. It won't be as good if I don't have a second camera operator, maybe doing, like you said, gimbal and some really nice shots, B-roll, while I set up the main camera and directing the shoot. It won't be as good as having someone sit on just lighting. Like my dad still helps us out. He does the lighting for us, and he's really good at that. So that's his background.
Great. Yeah.
RS lighting.
RS lighting. That's it. All those things, and all the other rest of the team. So depending on the production, I think one of your questions were what are one of my biggest productions.
Yeah, that was next to the one.
And that's in my mind. That was one of the ones that I was like, okay, how am I going to facilitate this in such a small amount of time? I'll let you ask the question.
No, well, I was just gonna say because I think we both shot the Hit Fit boxing thing we did.
Yes,
and I think that was probably one of the bigger productions I was actually on because we had obviously it was myself, then we had the presenter, then was you. Then we had another 2 guys on
switching board, video switcher, and so 2 extra cameras on the floor as well.
Yeah, so that's eight people crew. You know what I mean? That's huge. You know.
Yeah.
And
what switch was it?
Black Magic make a right stuff. And stuff. I don't know about their cameras though.
Sorry, just had to ask that one.
Look, Black Magic. There's nothing wrong with Black Magic. We just,
just the cameras tend to give a tinge of red. I don't know what it is.
No, that's Canon. Canon is red.
Sony's a bit of green, and then
Sony's blue.
I reckon. Look, depending my FS5, I had that on raw recording. This is a few years back now. That had a tinge of green, and I used to work with a guy that had a Mini Ursa, and that had a tinge of red. So we had to always adjust the colors to get them right.
It also depends on the lens you're using as well. Sorry, this is
it
completely breaking away.
Yes,
true.
Spot on.
I was recently shooting something, and someone said, "Oh, can you use this lens?" And it was a Samyang. It was one of those cheapo lenses, and everything was green.
Yeah, or magenta. When you get cheap lenses, they're either really magenta or really green, and it looks awful. The skin tones are absolutely awful. Yeah.
So
these are the things that clients don't know. Why would you spend $5,000 on a lens? Because the skin tones are better, but they don't care.
Yeah, that's right.
They don't know. And, these are the things that, as I think technicians, we get frustrated because we're like, but we buy such expensive gear.
The thing is, we've got a trained eye for that sort of stuff because we've been doing it with it such a long time. And if you just get an engineer from a factory that's talking about his product, he doesn't know jack.
But if you go to the movies and you watch a Hollywood movie filmed with a shit camera, you'll see it straight away. Everyone will, because they're like, oh, that looks cheap.
Yeah.
So that's how I talk to clients. Like, do you want a video that's going to look like someone that filmed it off an iPhone or something that looks like a Hollywood movie? Like, oh, I get it now. So, it's hard to talk about it, but if you visually see it side by side, it's not that hard to see it. But, when most clients get something that's cheap, they don't know any better because they haven't done anything else. So that's the problem.
I guess post-production, I ended up having to use post-production to fix it up. And I have to say, it didn't look too bad afterwards. But initially, everything was green. And I'm just looking at it going, what have I done wrong? Why is this green? And it's like, what? I screwed up, and then I realized it was actually lens causing it. But the thing is, in post-production, you just basically take the green out, bang, it's fixed. But if you're not good at doing that,
it's hard because you got pigmentation of the pixels can only handle so much of pulling things out. I think that's why the cleanest image possible from the beginning is always
always the best.
But thank God for good software. That's the thing.
I personally try to get right for the first time. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And the least color correction I have to do, the better. I mean, they're not paying me for this sort of stuff. You know what I mean? If I'm going to do my own sort of doco or whatever else, then I'll spend extra time and effort and make sure that everything is done properly. But if they're paying, $1,000 for a video or whatever else, I mean,
you've got to be realistic about the time you spend and what you're giving for the budget. And that's like anything. We did a budget. We had a reasonable budget for a shoot, and I said to the client, look, we're going to go all out with this one. I'm going to get my crew, my red cameras and whatnot. So we did that for them. And I tell you, they loved it. The clients came and said like, wow, because I was directing only. I didn't touch the camera. And I was directing the camera operator, and I had a guy doing the sound, a guy doing the light. It was a bigger production, and we had a big gimbal for the red. It looked amazing. And when the guys came in, they thought we were doing a Hollywood movie. It looked incredible. But realistically, you could do that with a small camera. You could do the A7S III on a gimbal if you really want to. Yes, it'll look different, but will the client know the difference? No. Do we really know? Yeah. It's a hard one.
Yeah, it is a hard one. It is a hard one. And that's just one of the things that we have to sort of deal with,
Yeah.
And that's why, I asked the question, do you have the budget for this? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Exactly.
And look, recently I sort of, I've upgraded all my lenses to all the G Master lenses as well.
Nice.
So I've got 70 to 200, I've got 24 to 70, I've got 35 to 16 to 35, all that sort of stuff. But
that's good.
That was a whole process as well.
And how did you find the difference between you had the Sigma Art series to them?
Yeah,
any difference?
So I still love my art series. The Sigma. It's brilliant. For some reason, I've noticed that the focus breathing is a lot more with the Sigma. I don't know why, but as soon as I put my G Master on, it just locks onto the face, onto the eyes. Where I've noticed with my
It's slower with the Sigma.
it is a little bit slower.
Well, they're not native lenses.
Correct.
I mean,
yeah.
you got to consider.
But it was
that,
I was getting a lot of focus breathing. So when it was focused on the eye, for instance, it started defocusing a little bit because sometimes when I shoot like even 1.4,
yeah, that's what I shoot on
you know what I mean?
sometimes as well.
It's it's kind of hard for it to
interviews.
get. Yeah.
With the FX9, I haven't had many issues, but I did notice sometimes it will lock into the hands. But
Yeah.
I've updated the FX9
firmware.
firmware, and now
Yeah,
you can
right.
touch focus and all
See,
that jazz.
Nice.
what you can do to benefit from this is actually get a camera that doesn't have autofocus, and then you don't have a problem.
That is true.
No, we just click it to manual. We've got the option.
Oh yeah, I look at the flick, baby.
You can flick it. You know what the question you asked before, or you were mentioning about, trying to make it work within budget and people not noticing the difference. One of the biggest projects we ever did was the Melbourne Cup, and you're going to ask me that question.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That was something that we really changed the mindset of the client, because when we did that, we had to tell the client, look, we're not going to shoot it like you originally had it from the other agencies. They were using Reds.
Yeah.
They were using all these big cameras on previous productions. We're like, we're going to shoot it with smaller cameras, gimbals. We're going to be roaming around, getting all kinds of different creative shots, because with the big Reds they couldn't do that. But they're like, but it has to be like this quality. And I'm like, trust me, we'll all film it in S-Log. We'll have we'll have everything color corrected properly.
Yep.
No one's going to tell the difference. And funnily enough, the quality of the production looked amazing.
Those videos are amazing, man.
Yeah,
I've
you
seen
saw
some
them,
of them.
and they're
Yeah,
all
they're
shot on.
fantastic,
Like I said, they weren't shot on Reds.
FX7, that's something that you shoot it on.
Yeah, FS5s. We had
FS5, sorry.
A7.
Yeah, that's right.
People had A7S2s even. 8-bit. It wasn't even all 10-bit stuff. It was a range of different. There was FS7s as well. There's a few different cameras. The thing I loved about that production was the fact that we had to bring a big team and work together. And that was what made it incredible. I think it's not just a matter of good quality. The good quality comes from the cameras. The good quality comes from the right team, all bouncing off each other and making it happen, making the magic work.
Yeah, you pick up the atmosphere.
Oh yeah,
it's the atmosphere is recorded. It's
Yeah.
it's because you can actually look at a production and technically it's perfect, but there's just no oomph to it.
No, that's right.
And then there's other times where the production doesn't have to be the greatest, but it's got heaps and heaps of you feel it.
Yeah.
And one of the earliest stuff that I used to do with the off-road racing many moons ago, I had a team and we all were passionate about off-road racing. So when we were filming with passion. We were trying to get that angle because that's what you want to see, and and the production quality itself was pretty, pardon my expression, but it was pretty shit. We're using these defunct cameras because we didn't have GoPros back then. GoPros didn't exist, so we would destroy these cameras in recording. So we
those little square ones,
the Sony written ones. Actually, they were. I kid you not, that they were all Sonys back then. I think Sony was predominant on the market, but they were like the cheap handy cams by Sony, and we couldn't afford to go off and buy these super expensive cameras and destroy them, so we kept buying these Sonys, and we knew that they would be destroyed, and we would use them for that purpose. But when you saw the production, I mean, I look back at them, I cringe, and I'm like, oh god, it's fuzzy, it's square, it's one by one, it's the sound's crap, but you could actually feel passion in the actual production, and that comes through, I think, and that's something that people don't realize.
Oh yeah, it's an art. Every single shot we shoot is made to be an artistic sort of masterpiece.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to do. That's what a real artist does, and that's what we try to do when we create videos. It's like we're not just shooting it for the sake of shooting it. We're creating a masterpiece that looks the best we can create.
Yeah,
it's
like
like
it's like having a robot shooting your film. It's not going to have any feelings.
No, that's right.
It's like at the Olympics when they've got those cameras that fly across the sky at 80 kilometers an hour, following the sports people. But they're great images, but there's doesn't have any.
And it's as art, we're all artists in here, and I think we will do that from a camera perspective, but then we need, that's where I employ a great marketer to do the messaging and the scripting and all the rest of it, because I won't do that. So with the right messaging and the marketing and whatever else, all the scripts that create the actual story comes with then the artistic part of the puzzle. So you bring them together and you create a masterpiece. So you need to do both. It's not just a matter of I got a guy that has a camera. Good on you. That's fine.
Well, that's me, man.
Yeah. No, but you can produce. You work with clients too. It's not a matter of just.
That's right.
There's both there, but I mean, I'm just saying, like in a sense of, anyone could just get a camera and handle a camera, but can they produce a video?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, that's the difference.
Oh, look, I've been doing this for a while too now, and there's so much I've learned through the whole, couple of years, couple of 100 years, I feel like. But I felt like I've learned so much, and, I started shooting on my 5D Mark II or 3, I can't remember now.
That was the bee's knees, the Mark II when it came
it
out. For
was.
video, that was
Yes.
like, wow.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. And you know what? And the productions were quite good with those as well. But look, as you grow, as you understand different things, you just move on. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's great to obviously hear your side of the story, how you sort of progress from 20 odd years ago and moving on to having all this studio crew and everything else. Do you feel like you would do it exactly the same thing, or would you change something? Would you sort of try to sort of stick with lower perhaps, or I don't know, like would you change it a little bit, or do you feel like you've achieved what you wanted to sort of achieve that 20 years ago? You know what I mean?
Look, I always wanted to be in the film industry. I've always wanted to be, do TV shows, maybe some great movies. I don't know, be part of a bigger production, like a Netflix production or something like that. I always think, should I go down that path? Can I try to go down that path? But the problem is I'm stuck in business, and I think that's, and I love the business part of it because that's, I think I'm a business guy. Like that's what I do.
On that note, sorry, I'm just going to cut you short there for a second. Did you find once you got stuck in business, you sort of lost passion and you weren't pursuing those things that really made you feel happy?
That's a bloody brilliant question.
Because that's what happens to me.
That is a brilliant question. I found that business does do that because it's all about the numbers.
Yeah.
So you get stuck into numbers. And you know what? I've done a lot of business development in my years. I mean, I've been part of like all kinds of coaching and stuff for business. And all it comes down to is crunching numbers. And you get sick of it. It's like, okay, we've got to make the next whatever it is. When do we make the next $100,000 in turnover?
Yeah.
Like, who's the next employee? Like, but where's the art?
Well, that's the thing. When I first started off, and when I first actually met Marty, believe it or not, it was all about the art. I'm blushing. No, but I remember the first time we met, Marty. The first time we met, we were on, we caught up in the city, and you were doing a couple of long exposures using filters and stuff, and I was watching you. And I'm thinking, wow, this is like an art form. But back then I used to take photos, but they never really had the artistic level to them. Visually they were great, but they just never had an artistic taste to them. And I learned a lot from watching you back then. And that's when you had a Canon. You were cool in those days.
That is true.
Yeah, but it was interesting because every time I went out, it was exciting. There was passion. You could look at the photos or the video production, and there was passion behind everything. And then over time, you got into business and you brought that passion along with you. And next thing you know, you're just going crunching the numbers. Yeah. And you just stop one day and just go, what the happened to the passion? There is none.
This is the reason why I hired my new employee just last week. She's going to take care of business development, take care of client liaison and quotes and budgets and emails and stuff like that. Because I do that so often. Look, I'm really good at it because I do it all the time and I know how to do it well. But the problem is, it does take and it just drains my energy. So I want to be doing the art. And she knows that. She goes, her aim is to have that part of the business taken care of so I can go on shoots and take care of the artistic part of the business. And that's what I want to do. And also manage my teams and all that sort of stuff. I love that stuff too. I mean, I couldn't be shooting every day. I tell you now, I've done weeks of shooting a lot and it kills me. It's tiring. Yep. That's why I love having access to good crew. So, I can't do it. Like last week we had a production on in Tasmania. I got one of my guys to go out to Tassie to film it for me. Because there was no way, I've got a 1-year-old at home, we've got a business to run. I'm not going to go fly out to Tassie for a couple of days and shoot. As much as I love to, I would have done it back in the day.
That's right.
But, and that was done. And he done an amazing job, better than what I would do because he's got a couple of A7S3s and they're light, they're small. He knows how to run around with both of them. And, that's what he does. That's his style of filming. So there's different guys for different jobs. So,
100%.
I believe that, I think the business is one part and then you've got the artist the other part. I love business though. I think I've always loved business growth and business development.
Do you find that it pulls you back though, because like you mentioned Netflix and you mentioned getting into that sort of bigger productions and
the problem is
having that knowledge already there and having the know-how and owning these FX9s.
But I've had the opportunities to film TV shows around the world. I got asked recently to film a TV show and travel the world this year. Literally travel the world for free and get paid for it. I had to
Well, you've got a family,
I've got
so
a family. But not
yeah.
only that, I've got a business to run.
But I want to thank you for passing that job on to me.
I would have loved to do it. I've got to see your work first, Dave. I don't know. We're going to suss it out.
I don't know soon, so you wouldn't pass it on to me.
Yeah, I don't know if I could. Yeah, a lot of that work has gimbal work actually, so you got to But the thing is, I had to say no. But the thing that was more of a freelancer project because I wasn't managing the whole TV show. It was more a camera operator, and I would have loved to do that in my 20s, but even probably my early 20s, not so my mid and after because I had the business.
Yeah.
But then you'd have the frustration of having to work with other people who were doing things the way you wouldn't do them, and you're sitting there going, "That's wrong."
Well, well, yes and no. I mean, I like working. I think when you're working with a team, you all work collaboratively, and you sort of like you want to make it work. But the problem is with the shooting style itself, it's very tiring. I do like the balance between being in the office, doing a bit of admin, do some calls, relax, and do those things, and then other days shoot. So you get that, even sometimes just watch my editor edit something like that looks beautiful. That's a bit green. Well, that's a bit red. Well, and have that still creative approach.
Just an input,
in my own time.
I have a solution for you. It just came to me because I'm an ideas person.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Here we go.
So what you do, right, and this works on 2 levels. So you get to do the shooting, plus you make lots of money. You have a new package that you offer your clients if they want you. It's the above and beyond package.
That's the A package. You got the ABC.
So they hire you. They're going to pay you 3 times the amount, and it's only for those clients who really want you.
Yeah, that's it.
And you just sort of go, shit, yeah, all right. Look, if you're going to pay me $10,000 an hour, I'm there. I'm there. But just this once, just for you.
Speaking of that, have you actually done any documentaries or anything like that in the past, or have
I mentioned, I did a bit of a. So when I went to South Africa in 2010, we did a bit of an overall video of the Australian team of 150 people going to see the the World Cup, I should say, and Australians enjoying that. So it was more like the scenery of what the Australians were going through. So it was a bit like a mini doco, but it wasn't published anywhere. It was more for the people that came. That was nice to do. There was another one in Greece actually was published. I only filmed it, I didn't edit it, so I filmed it for another producer. So that was a story about some Australians playing cricket in Greece and some of that. TV doco stuff. Back when I was younger, I actually filmed a lot of bits and pieces. Like I remember once I had to film. I remember it was the guy from the Village People came to Australia once for World AIDS Day, and I did some random things.
Yeah.
He actually tried to pick me up. I go, sorry, mate, I don't swing that way.
I don't see that way.
I actually worked with the whole Village People crew.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Philip, the guy with a hat. He was the one that
Was that the Indian?
Yes,
guy?
the Indian guy.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, he's the one I filmed 2006. I think it was. Yeah,
it's actually ironically that's when I did a photo shoot with him.
that's probably when they came.
The whole team they were down.
Were you at that apartment where he was staying?
I was keeping
There's
off the.
There's like all the Channel 9
No,
crew there.
I was actually at a couple of their performances, doing some production work for them and audio stuff, believe it or not. But yeah, that was when they were doing live performances. There was one character who wasn't there, and they replaced him, if I remember correctly. But it was a very long time ago. My memory's failing me in old age. But yeah, the 4 of them were in Melbourne, and I did some work with them. So we probably crossed paths.
Yeah. We filmed Rob Mills. He was doing the singing. He was like doing the event as well as an event on for World AIDS Day. Oh, this was for one of the channels on Foxtel. So I did a lot of that sort of work as well. That was fun. Like I've had a lot of like good productions back in the day. Now it definitely is a bit more corporate, because it is business as usual. Like we sort of dove into that sort of sector. But I think the other stuff is fantastic. I'd be more than happy to take on if someone said let's produce a TV show, or I'd love to. It does come down to taking the risk, doing a pilot. What are we going to? When I first started my business, I had the Rio Tinto story. At the same time, believe it or not, I wrote a script about starting a TV show on Channel 31. I was this close. I had a script ready. It was called something like about fitness, because I loved fitness. And I'm like, I want to create a TV show that shows different parts of fitness, not just like gym. I'm talking like around Australia, different ways of being fit and healthy, and showing businesses that are doing different things different ways. So introducing them like, a bit like a getaway, and showing the different people around areas. Like that style. And having different.
There's someone out there right now taking notes.
I think there's something out like that already anyway. They've already taken that. But there was nothing like it at the time. And I wrote the story, I wrote the script, I wrote the bit of the synopsis, whatever you call it. And and I was really eager to get this thing started because I brought my camera, remember the $10,000 camera, and I could use that for TV. Channel 31 was fine back then.
Yeah, that's right.
And then Rio Tinto came along. So it's like I was making close to nothing And all of a sudden, as a 20-year-old, I was paying $50 to $100 an hour. Like how?
Back then as well.
Yeah,
back then.
can't say
How
that.
can you say no? So business started, and that's why I saved.
But
to
if you
grow the
hadn't,
business.
taken it, you'd probably be either you would have fallen out of the business because you were just so disappointed or you're broke.
Yeah.
And you'd be working at Safeway now, stacking shelves. Not that there's anything wrong with
That's-
doing that.
Yeah,
But
but that's the issue with this industry, and I really feel sorry for a lot of young guys that are starting out and saying, "I'm shooting this short film," and they're out there for years trying to create art, but they can't get anywhere with it because it's so hard.
But
It's
then-
tough.
But you've also got, on the other hand, I've tried to hire a couple of people, and they're like, "Oh no, I won't work for less than $350 an hour," and I'm like, "Have you actually done anything before? You just like
They never have done.
they've done nothing, but they expect $350
No,
an
doesn't work
hour
that way.
just to film." No editing, and then you got to pay for their costs to get there. Or actually, my favorite was that you'll have to drive me there, and I'm just like, what? But there's a lot of that happening as well.
When I started, I was making less than $100. I was making nothing. I remember when I started filming, when I was doing the TV stuff, I was lucky to make $100 a day, but I didn't care.
Yeah.
Look, you know how I told you I had a bad back. I was actually this. I'll tell you honestly, I was on a disability pension because my back was that bad, like at the time, and I was worried that is my back going to get worse? But it was fine. But I got off that because I'm like, I don't need this money from the government. I want to run my own show.
Yeah.
So I got off that.
There's the passion and
there's a
obviously,
passion.
yeah,
I don't want
the
to
pride.
work. I don't want to
Yeah.
just work for on the side. I actually want to make this happen. So I got rid of that thing. It was but that's money on the side. It's like, oh great. It's like it's extra cash. But at the same time, I feel like that was stopping me from growing, and it did because you can only cap so much money when you're on those sort of those government sort of payments.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
And
$1.50 a week.
yeah.
You're exactly right. So and I started very, very small, and like I said, the actual productions were big, but I was working with the crew, but I was learning from them. That's what you do. You got to learn and take your experiences with you, so you grow with it, and don't charge an arm and a leg straight away. We charged all small and small when we started up.
Yeah.
But
Well, that's pretty much like that's potentially what Evan and I potentially do. We don't go for the sort of $50,000-$60,000 jobs. You know what I mean? We lived all those to you. But look, it's having a family. It's a big thing as well, and obviously a lot of other aspects play as well. So
having a family, that's changed my perspective. Like we've got a 1-year-old now. He's full on best kid, cutest kid I've ever, in the world, because obviously he's my kid. You always say that about your own kid. But the thing is, I would not go overseas now to do a production. I wouldn't go and do that even interstate now because I've got this kid at home. Like I don't want to not miss him for a day. So
I'll give you another year before you're like,
I know. I can't wait to get out.
Another couple of years. I've got teenagers now, man. So
at that stage I probably want to
know.
Yeah, that's right. Now I'll go. But for now, the next couple of years,
But by that stage, you'll be like, send me to a war zone. I don't mind. I don't mind. Yeah. I don't need body armor. Just send me there. Okay? I've got my camera. That's all I need.
That's all I need. Exactly.
I think I don't even know where we're up to at the moment, time wise. 1 hour about. So, I guess one of the last questions, and I mean, look, I've got a hell of a lot more questions for you, but
I've got one as well. But I'll let you go first.
No, I'm just wondering, what does visual production agency look for the future, man? Like what's the aim? You know what I mean? In 5 years' time, for instance.
Cool.
You know what I mean?
Good question. I would say that, look, initially I want it to be a huge agency doing all sorts of things. I'm actually scaling back. I'm like, I want to grow to, I'll probably say I'd be happy to grow the business to double where it is now. And I'd be really happy.
Are you hoping to sort of step away a little bit and let
so
it run itself?
grow it more.
Yeah.
So double our turnover, like in the next few years, and get it to a point where it's self-sustainable. It's less stressful because it's not so much of we've got a bigger team at that stage, but not too many of us. I think growing too fast, too quick is an issue, but also not growing at all is another issue. You got to sort of find that balance. So I want to get to that point where it's a bigger team, but even with the full-timers, I don't think we need a lot of full-timers. In this business, you need a handful of us to be in the business. Everyone else can be contractors. I think in this business, you've got to be versatile. Like, Marty, I'll give you a call. Marty, we need a hand for this production.
But it also saves a lot of overheads as well. And, you don't have the ongoing payment of, for people doing nothing other than sitting around looking at
That's right. Yeah.
And you can bring in specialist teams.
At the time.
Exactly.
And that's how I've been running it during COVID most of the time too. We've having people, but there are some contractors that are ongoing. So we do have, but I think like you said, camera operators, we don't need full-time camera operators. You know, yes, there are some guys out there that do filming, editing, and the whole lot, but there are specialists sometimes. And there's some guys that have specialized cameras, and you can't get that as a full-time. If I want someone with a red camera, I know I've got to call one of my guys. I've got another guy who's got an RE camera. I can, you know, I've got these connections at our hands. So like, okay, what do we need for this production? Oh, we just need a Sony. Great. Oh, he's got a Blackmagic. No, we won't go there. But anyway.
But I was going to say, I double up as a tripod as well. So if you ever need someone just to stand there holding something, I can do that too.
So I'm guessing you are you hoping to sort of, you know, build up that business and potentially do your own passion project? Maybe?
Yeah, I was going to mention that. Sorry. Yeah. So, you know, having that sort of flexibility to then, you know, go back a little bit and step back from all the business, and then maybe start some love projects. You know, I was talking to one of my guys today about, you know, potentially doing like a short film. He so this guy actually was an intern, and he's brilliant. He's a brilliant editor, and we're just talking about, you know, the prospect of creating a film and what equipment and crew we need. Obviously, I would have to fund it, but if the business is making money, I'm happy to reinvest it to create something we all love to do.
That's right.
You know, we've got look. You know what? Why I love this city. Okay, there's not a lot of work in the production field. I know it's a bit tough, but there's so many great artists. We are so talented in this country. Like, there's so many great talent, and it frustrates me. If it was up to me, I would even say one day I'd love to start a school. I don't know, or something like a company that can bring all these amazing creatives together and just start doing shit. Because I'm sick of people that are so good at what they do, but they're working at Big W. Or, you know, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's just so many good creatives out there. Why is it that we can't use these people? It's because there's not enough work out there. How can we create the work?
Yeah, it's not just work, but I think it's not a sustainable kind of, you know, like, that's one of the reasons why I'm not doing this. You know, I don't have a whole crew, you know what I mean? You know, and I mean, I do exactly the same thing when if I have a bigger project, I might bring Evan on, or which I've done in the past, and he's done it to me as well. And you know, sometimes even my son comes with me to a production. You know what I mean? I'll make him wear a Melbourne Images top, and you know, he comes to a production. You know what I mean? But look, at the end of the day, I think, you know, that commitment, having the employees, and almost to a point where it's like, hey, where am I going to find $80,000 a year to pay this guy, or you know, or $100,000 a year? You know what I mean? And there's just ongoing.
It's a stressful business because there's no consistency. You're living project by project, and sometimes, and most of the time, it's a one-off project. You work very hard for that client for that one job, and that is it. So what's next? So that's the issue with our industry. It's not like when you run a SEO or a digital marketing company, you're on retainers every month for $2,000 a month, and you've got 50 clients, or an accountant that, you know, has 50 or 100 clients a year, and you know they're going to pay every year. We're dealing with, you know, project for project. So it is a tough business. And, you know, I feel for people out there that are, you know, that are struggling. And that's why I wish there was a way to support the creatives. That's something that would be a passion project for me, you know, in the future maybe as well. It's not just making the films.
No, I totally agree. Did you have any other questions?
I do have one. I'm mindful that we are running over time, but I just had one question. And I'm going to put you on the spot here because it's, we haven't rehearsed this at all. Normally I say to people, what advice do you give to people who are in the same industry and are hoping to develop into the same level that you are? But because we're running out of time, what is the one thing that you would advise people to do to develop themselves and their business and to become as successful as you, other than obviously, you know, having a Sony? But you know, what would you say? What would be the one key bit of advice that you would give to anyone in your industry who's hoping to be as successful as you? There you go, that was a mouthful.
Very good question. To put it in one, it's very hard to say.
One
thing.
One key thing. You know, I'll put you on the spot. I'm sorry. It's like, you know, I haven't even given you a chance to think about this.
We just said it before. I think everyone's so worried about, now we're going back from sort of closing away from the art, but everyone's so worried about the art. Sometimes don't worry about the art too much. Being a perfectionist is great, but sometimes you're just so blinded by the perfect picture. I mean, we are, and we have to be for our clients, don't get me wrong, but especially when you're starting out, it's not just about how perfect your picture is, it's how you deal with the client. Like I said, how you communicate with them and understand their needs. Because it's communication. I found I grew my business through networking.
Yeah.
Go back to basics. You know, it's not just about, you know, I've got to make the perfect picture and charge $350 an hour. No. Just what is it that's required, and add value to the client. When I went through my toughest times in business, I nearly lost my business. I've been through the ups and downs. You know, it's not all success. Through the toughest times of business, I just went back to the basics, and a lot of my business coaches said, add value to your business and make sure there's activity. If there's activity, yes, there might not be much going on, but create activity so you've got things that are happening behind the scenes, because that activity will eventually grow to something else. I think that's the basic, sort of
keep going.
Yeah, keep going, because it is tough. Yeah.
Sensational. That's a good piece of advice.
I too agree.
I might take it on for myself. I'm going to tell everyone else that it's my piece of advice now. Stand back, people. I'm giving you advice.
From the guy with the black magic.
True. Anyway,
we've created the monster, haven't we?
Yeah, we have.
The next comment, can we have Sony versus Blackmagic and create a video, not a podcast? We'll do a vodcast.
And you know what? Don't forget Canon's also in there, because I'm a Canon user as well.
Oh, yeah, true. I don't have any Canons.
I sold all my Canon gear now.
I know some guys that own Canons. We'll bring them in.
Oh, there you go. Cheers.
This has been awesome.
Thanks for that coming in, Dane. It's really much appreciated as well, mate. Like I said, we're not doing this for any sort of profit or anything like that as well. It's just more about education.
What do you mean? I think you're paying me.
Oh, crap. Evan, we've got to pay him, man.
Let me get that plastic bag. I've got it lying around here somewhere.
It's getting a bit late.
It's empty. It's empty. Someone's already taken it.
You need to get some sleep, man. Hang on. I thought, man, we bought already pizzas and stuff. I thought that was enough, man.
The beer.
The Polish beer, man.
That was beautiful. It's got some good beer here, guys.
That's it. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming in, man. I think we should do this again, man. I reckon this was fun, man. And and I think we got to come up with different questions and maybe talk about more about the actual production component as well.
Yeah, love to.
So there's so much things we can include in this that potentially. We can talk about this for hours.
Oh, we can. We can talk about this for hours. We can just talk about lighting for hours if we want to, or how to set up your camera. I'd love to. That'll be fantastic.
Anyway, so just to finish it off. Just give us a summary of where you are based. What's your website, socials, and other things as well. So
great.
People can
contact number as well.
Yeah, sure. First thing. So we're based in Victoria, Melbourne, Victoria. In Australia for the international listeners. So in a nice little suburb called Essendon. So we've got a green screen studio, and the business, as we mentioned, is Visual Production Agency. You can call us on 9351 0002. You can see our website, www.visualproduction.com.au. You find us there. A lot of our great work's on our website. So
there is a lot of good work, man, and I really and socials as well. So you're obviously both on Instagram, Facebook.
Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Visual Production Agency. Just look it up.
Yeah, beautiful.
Thanks for that.
Thank you. All right, let's finish it off, and thanks for listening, Evan. Last words of wisdom.
I have none.
He's all talked out.
I'm all talked out. I've got one big.
I didn't think that was possible.
Yeah, no, it happens. It happens late at night. When you've got kids and you work and lots of work, you just don't have the energy. But no, seriously. Thank you very much for coming on board. It was great having you.
A pleasure.
I love these episodes where we bring in other people who basically tell us how to do things.
No, thanks.
It just takes a long time. You know what I mean? And like a lot of people think, oh yeah, I'm going to get into this and start doing this and smashing it out, and it doesn't work like that, unfortunately, man. So to build up the knowledge, build up the gear, sort of everything else, it just takes a long time. But
and a little note at the end of this. Though whilst everyone's picking on Blackmagic and I'm picking on Sony, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what camera you've got. It's just how you use it.
That's right.
And exactly, you can do some amazing stuff with almost anything at all. It's just about your talent and how much you're willing to put into it.
100%.
So regardless of what we say and how much we stir each other, at the end of the day, it really comes down to you, not your camera. So
exactly. Oh, that's couldn't say it any better. That's fantastic.
Beautiful.
Thanks so much, guys. Really appreciate the opportunity. It was lovely, and
that was awesome.
Have a great night.
Good fun. All right, thank you.
Take care.
Ciao.